Okay. Hi, Jaromil. It's good to meet you virtually again.
Hi, Paulo.
Bom, pessoal, o Jaromil é o fundador da Dyne.org, né? Ele tem nos ajudado no projeto Avant Garden justamente com a parte do login de identidade descentralizada, né? Ou como ele vai mencionar na fala dele, o DID. Né? Isso está dentro de um conceito, né, da soberania de identidade digital, né? E especialmente, né, a gente achou muito importante fazer esse processo justamente para não, digamos assim, colocar em risco a identidade digital desses estudantes dos CELS que nós vamos atuar, compartilhando esses dados, né, tão preciosos desses estudantes com as Big Techs. A gente tem discutido no Brasil, né, o papel das Big Techs, né, e a importância da privacidade, né, tanto com a LGPD e tudo mais em cima disso, né. Então, com vocês, o Denis Roio, mais conhecido como Jaromil, da Dyne.org, ele vai falar um pouquinho não só da atuação dele, mas principalmente das questões relacionadas à soberania de identidade digital, à privacidade e, no final das contas, do empoderamento de dados, né, o empoderamento da cidadania. Ok, Jaromil.
Cheers, Paulo. So, thanks for this opportunity to cooperate together. I'm very happy, and it's very inspiring to confront also needs, requirements, and dreams that we have for sovereignty in technology, in data, both here in Europe and where you are in Brazil. I think the importance of this technology lies at the heart of the concept of independent governance, because the way we recognize identity of people and their curriculum, their credentials, their skills, their life achievements into certified documents, the power to do that has been historically the power of a large social system, governed hopefully by democratic rules, by a rule of law, and by a peer-reviewed process, which is often found in academy, because it is a delicate role, that of assigning these credentials and also verifying them. It's a role of power. It can be a coercive role. It can be we're talking about identification systems that could grant a future to a young student or not, by opening certain doors or others based on the achievements of these students. And why it is important to keep them decentralized? One very practical reason is portability and interoperability. So we want our youth to be free to travel across the world, to be able to show their achievements elsewhere, and therefore the quality that is shown by the credentials given by universities in Brazil can be recognized easily, can be authenticated with the same systems in Europe. It becomes only a political and academic question, but is not anymore a technical question to recognize these credentials, which is very important because often technology gets in the way, and the administrative role of paperwork often gets in the way of recognizing legitimate credentials for people. So we're trying to make that a standard that is decentralized, and we work on standardized technologies used in the United States, in Europe, and soon also, I hope, in Brazil. They are standardized by the W3C and other standard bodies, independent peers we work with, and they are completely free and open source. So in the moment in which you adopt this technology, you are sure that you can do it on your own without necessarily asking us at Dyne or other people at W3C to implement it for you. This is what Avant Garden is doing. Avant Garden is implementing his own system, which is compatible and it's interoperable. This is a big bet on the future, on the growth of the educational system across countries and on its interoperability. There is also another good reason to use decentralized identity, and it's political. And it's best shown with an example. I don't know if anyone remembers the Pokemon Go game, which was a game that caught the attention of the youth and actually created incentives, point systems. You gain points by going around finding little animals in a virtual world that you could see through your screen of the mobile. So we saw many young people going around with the screen like this, looking through the lens of the skin to find these little pets. And they were created in very different places, not planned, sometimes on the railroads, sometimes across highways. So across the world, we had kids going into very dangerous places to look for these incentives. In New York, the mayor issued an alert for law enforcement because there were many people just clogging the entrance of buildings or parks, and they were creating mobs that could actually become dangerous with stampede and other sort of problems. And traffic jams were created just by a game that was creating randomly these incentives. Why I'm giving you this example is that the incentives that we create in games or in real life, they will move people's decisions. And what we do with that system is create, also for an education system, we create incentives for people to earn skills and to play them later. So they are very motivated, the students that enroll into higher education and follow up the path to actually grow their skills. And the system that creates the authentication of the skill, the system that actually assigns the skill, the technical system I'm talking about, not the academic system, which is already in place. This technical system, if it's not owned by the universities with a sort of independence, so a federated network of decentralized identities that can be recognized between universities, but they are owned and assigned by each university. If we don't have this situation, we are in danger. If we have a situation in which a multinational corporation from somewhere else holds the logics by which incentives are created and incentives are networked between themselves, are made interoperable or not, are recognized in another country and not in another country. These sort of technical questions, often they are technical barriers and they are political before we realize. And they affect our students, our youth, our own decisions. We will actually take decisions based on the possibility to have a certificate recognized in a place or another, or granted by a place or another. An European student will much easier choose to go to Brazil to study because knowing that can come back and avoid that whole paperwork that is about having recognized the credentials technically and at least play and demonstrate it academically that you got the skills that you ought to learn in Brazil. So you see, this is also about mobility and it is about sovereignty in the very sense I like to remember of the farmers in Via Campesina that have fought for the right of seeds to be reproducible, have fought for the technology that they used for producing the crops to be non-patented by Monsanto. And this is an example from 20, 30 years ago, but it's very important. The researcher and leader that made us also know this in the West and in the East, Vandana Shiva, mentioned this is like a poverty of the mind if we don't imagine that we can generate new things from the seeds that we have. and we have constantly to buy them, to depend from a company, a multinational company. So now think of the generational value of having seeds that can reproduce themselves without patents, and think of the generational value of having an educational system that can actually grant and recognize credentials without patents, without asking a foreign company to grant these credentials, without paying for every single transaction on an identification process, without being chained to a foreign or a foreign, not just in geographical sense, but in political, in ethical sense, someone that doesn't care about your society, that is going to decide how technically you can motivate and grant a growth, an intellectual growth that is certified for students. Now, I believe that also education happens outside of the walls of a school, of a university, and I think that with a decentralized identity system, it's also less of a barrier for new and emerging curricula outside of the walls of a school to be compatible, to show their compliance, and to be compatible with, in their own way, with what is a certificate. So in Europe already we have programs that enable musea to grant certificates to students that have art shows, for instance, or events, so that this sort of traceability of events in life is part of a curriculum life, so that we can also cover these positive externalities, these hard to catch experiences into the curriculum of a person, if this person wants. So last but not least, the technologies we are talking about, they are verifiable credentials. They are shown only if you want. And these are technologies that are privacy preserving. So you can show your credentials, you can show a match to your face without showing your name, your address, your birth date, without showing other information. You can prove that you are there in front of an official with your body, because of a face perhaps could be authenticated as a credential, and besides that face, as a recognition in person, there can be all your curriculum in academia or in certain parts of the academia. You can select what you show, and you show it to an authority. The authority will see it, that is signed by other authorities, and it's all compatible. So you can really travel with these documents around much easier, and you can be recognized much easier, preserving your identity. So, for instance, why would you give your residential address to in a new meeting to a university where you are subscribing, if it's not necessary at the very beginning in a transaction, or to a work giver, or to any situation you may not want to give other personal information about you. And you can select them. They are part of a wallet. So your wallet, which is really inside your pocket, is not on a platform online, is not owned by Dynorg, is not owned by Avant Garden, is in your pocket, and it's enabled by a protocol we are developing together to be interoperable across these fields. So I think that at last, distributed digital identity, a decentralized and federated system, is a very important investment for the future. It's one of those things that if you don't do today, in 10 years you will regret that you are depending from a system that is not maintained anymore, that a company maybe has disappeared, the one that was operating it, or perhaps is asking more money at the end of the first contract. You are sure that you can opt out because it's free and open source software. You can build it on your own. Pardon. So I think this is for the decision makers out there. There are a lot of documentation, and I think Paolo is the best person you have to really take you by hand into this journey on digital identity, which is extremely important. And I believe in the last 10 years, we have seen a lot of technical opportunities to be free, be more free than we are, especially from technology and especially from technocracy. So what we are fighting for, and I think I can say it for both of us, is not to have technologists in charge, is not to have more money pumped into the insane top 10 macro and global corporations that are earning on our data and on our interaction on their operating systems, is to actually dismiss all these technologists, dismiss the technocracy, and have people rule on their own data and on their own future.
Thank you very much, Jaromil. That was really precise description of the reason why we choose Dyn in order to create this opportunity for those Brazilian students to at least starting experimenting the possibility of and not only the possibility but for real the decentralized identity process of logging and the importance of privacy and digital sovereignty. Thank you very much, John.
Cheers, Paolo.
Cheers.